Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Shit Show, where we talk about real people, real struggles, and real bad decisions. Like me deciding 4 hours of sleep during maple production season is a lifestyle choice. I don't know. As an entrepreneur, I definitely burn the candle at both ends and sometimes in the middle. Most days I'm running on caffeine, nicotine, chaos, and the occasional pep talk from my wife and kids, or even Jamie. People call it hustle, but let's be honest, half the time it's just panic with better marketing. And hustle, sure, it builds business, it pays bills, makes you feel like you're chasing something bigger. But somewhere along the way, it became this weird competition. Like if you're not waking up at 4 a.m., running 10 miles, reading 3 books, and launching a side hustle on Etsy before sunrise, all of a sudden you're lazy. The truth is, hustle without balance doesn't make you successful. It makes you tired and cranky. Ask my wife. And nothing screams living the dream like crying in your car at Taco Bell drive-through at 1:57 in the morning because they won't make you a Crunchwrap Supreme. I've been there. And if you think that's bad, try being a maple syrup producer in February. Now, I know what you think. You hear maple syrup and picture some Hallmark movie with snow falling and steam rising up out of the cupola, and you're eating pancakes on Sunday morning. But what they don't see is me and my team on a couple hours of sleep over the last 3 days, covered in sap, praying the sap lines don't freeze solid before we get them pumped out. Farmers like me, we don't hustle because it's trendy. We hustle because food doesn't make itself. But here's the kicker: sanity gets tapped right along with those trees, which is why I believe humor is the best medicine. If we can laugh at grind culture that I think social media has created, if we can laugh at the 4 a.m. alarms, the endless emails, the rise and grind nonsense, maybe, just maybe, we can honestly talk about the cost of it all and how to hold on to our mental health in the middle of the madness. So, yeah, today's theme: hustle, humor, and holding it together. And speaking of holding it together, just look at me. I'm built like a short offensive lineman who wandered off the field and into a sugar house. An auctioneer, a podcaster, a farmer, basically a professional talker who doesn't know when to shut up, kind of like right now. My high school coach said I had the perfect build for the bench in my basketball team. My friends say I have the perfect face for broadcasting. And my cows that I still own, they're just like, buddy, you're not fooling anybody. But that's who I am. I'm a guy willing to burn out, laugh about it, and then invite you to the table anyway. Because if I can't stand here roasting myself, hold on, if I can sit here roasting myself, maybe you'll see it's okay to be real too. So now let's meet the real brains behind the shit show. We'll start with Amber. She's a podcaster, a blogger, a VA who's juggled more plates than a diner waitress on a double shift. She's traveled the world, built a name for herself, and still wrestles with that fine line between working hard and working herself crazy. Today she's bringing today she's bringing the honesty and probably a story that'll make us feel less alone. So, Amber, thank you for joining the show today. My next co-host is Jamie Props. She's an entrepreneur, a digital creator, and the host of Fishing for a Reason, which, by the way, is the perfect title for someone who turned her passion into a career. She knows what it's like to build something from scratch, stay up late chasing a dream, and to wonder if the hustle is worth the headache. So cast your lines out for Jamie. Again, thank you, Jamie. And last but not least, our friend Morgan Ekovich is here as well to weigh in on today's topics. She's a personal trainer and a business coach who knows hustle better than anyone because she's lived it. From building her own brand to running on fumes between clients, she's proof that sometimes success looks like strength, and sometimes it looks like a meltdown in yoga pants. So, Morgan, welcome to the show. So, I want to start today um, just laughing at this idea of hustle culture because, God, I went to the blocks, right, and met so many entrepreneurs and had so many conversations of like just uh Like people understand the grind, right? We all understand the grind. It takes a lot of work to run a business, to start a business, um, even to take over a business, like all this stuff. So I guess the first question I want to throw out, and Jamie, I'm going to start with you. Um, what is the dumbest thing you've ever done in the name of hustle for your business?
I thought long and hard on this question, and I was super glad you gave it to me in advance, this one specifically, because I'm gonna flip some. So, hustle culture, when I think of that definition, I think of like, bruh, like let's go. Let's wake up at 4 a.m. and let's work till midnight and all the things. But I also don't believe that's totally what it is. I think it's been pictured that way. I think hustle is also required. But it doesn't
Without a
have
doubt,
yeah, it
right?
doesn't have to be
Without a doubt.
constant. That's the thing that I think is
Yeah.
false, is that it's this constant, like, hamster wheel.
But
The
you have to come to that realization on your own terms as an entrepreneur, right?
Mhm. Exactly. But there is work to be, and in society, I feel like the message is getting soft. Self-care and wellness and bubble baths and do you, boo? You know what I mean? Like, yes, do you. Also do the things to get to the result or else you won't. Like, there is totally a balance on that. The dumbest thing I've ever did, and when I was thinking about it, I actually don't think any decision I've ever made is dumb because I've learned really extreme valuable lessons from the mistakes. So, like,
Okay.
I don't
Fair,
think they're
fair.
dumb, but if society looked at Jamie and said, "What the hell are you doing?" The one thing that we did is my husband and I had a moment where we were visiting friends for a wedding in Florida, and he had a major health scare that put us in the ER. And like, you get to the ER and then you wait for hours and hours and hours to double check the thing. And so we were waiting on the list to make sure the results were okay. And it was scary. And it was like, what the hell are we doing with our lives? We had that like moment of like, what are we doing with our lives? And we just started looking on Craigslist. So, step one, dumbest thing, Craigslist as the answer. And we were looking at jobs, things that we could do. And we found a place in Alaska that was looking for a maintenance person and like a waitress. I've never been a waitress. Scott, sure, he can fix things. Why not? And so we're like, this is a fly out fishing lodge. So they literally put you on a very small plane and you fly out to this remote location that has 8 miles of road, but you can't get to it other than by boat or by plane. And we applied and we got the job. So we essentially blew up our lives. Like, I quit my stable 9 to 5. And he also uprooted everything. And we moved to this fishing lodge, not knowing anything about the area or like we just went for it. And it was because of that moment of like, why not try? Like, we don't have anything to lose. So I would say that was a pretty reckless decision, like, if you look at it on paper, but it also was one of the best decisions I ever made in my life because I'm here now because we took that huge leap of why the hell not? And it did not go perfectly. We'll just leave that right there. So, yeah, who do you wanna give it to next?
um, I'll go with Amber.
Yes, I think, well, I will say that old me will say I did or I made a lot of dumb decisions, but new me, this new version of me who is learning to be more, graceful with herself and her journey. Things can be more like Jamie does, that I won't blame myself and say that I did something too reckless or dumb. I had opportunities, I saw opportunities, and I just took them, and I just waited for the best. So that's the thing. But, ooh, actually, when I started working online, and I believe that the hardest decision that I had to make was also like kind of like quit an office type of job to start doing everything on my own. And I will say that the biggest decision that I made was to leave the agency that I was working before to do it, like in this case, the BA job that I'm doing now. I had the support of other people, of other colleagues, of I had a network of people there, helping me do things. If I didn't know something, I could ask questions, I could ask for help and all of these. And then I was like, okay, I had this nudge that I had to do it on my own. I have to leave this place. I have to do something. And then after that, it was scary. And it was like I was losing my mind in the sense that I had so many questions and so many things to do. And I had all of these responsibilities. And I was the only one taking care of everything. So I couldn't rely on anyone else. And at the beginning, it felt like, oh my God, what did I do? And then I started, and then this is like when the household part came because I was not sleeping. So I got sick like very bad, and I was like getting sick all the time. It was horrible. I didn't like never in my life I've been sick like so many months in a row, and I was getting sick very frequently. And I was like, okay, I cannot do this. I'm going to
Yeah.
I mean, I'm giving all my life, my energy, my skills, everything for other people's businesses, which is fine, which is something that I love, but at the cost of my own health. And I was like, okay, I have to find a way to change this because this is not working. So I believe that that's like the dumbest thing in the sense that I did not maybe organize things first in a better way that could support myself. I didn't have like enough systems in place. And so, yeah, I think that the systems were the missing piece in this process. So yes, I quit, and I was like, I was happy about that. But at the same time, I was like, okay, now you have to figure it out all on your own, by yourself. Like, start moving it. And then I was like working and working and working and learning and working and doing and working, no, 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 and working. And I was like not taking care of myself. So I think that when you make these kind of decisions, you really have to think them through. You really have to like, okay, I know I can do it, but am I sure that I'm not going to, lose myself in the process? In this case, I'm not going to lose my health, my mental health, or whatever. So, yeah, that was a very interesting season. Luckily, it didn't last that long, but in the
Well, and
moment,
I think that's the thing that a lot of people fall into, right? So what I heard was the dumbest thing was the sleep, right?
yeah.
And sometimes we just have to admit that taking a nap is actually productive, right? That's actually a measure of productivity in some ways. Um, but yeah, I just totally get that. And I'll just say, like taking that leap from having the 9 to 5, having the W-2, right? Um, that's a big leap. I wouldn't call that a dumb decision, but then when you get into that grind, it's like, well, I have to do this, I have to do that. You start wearing all these different hats, and yeah, like you literally made yourself physically sick. Which is a lesson that I think everybody ends up going through at some point. Morgan, what's your take on this?
So I guess when I thought about this, I wasn't sure where I wanted, like what kind of came to mind. Before I was working for myself when I would, which like I've always kind of been self-employed as a personal trainer. Yes, the gym pays me, but like I'm responsible for finding my own clients, for putting them on
Yeah.
schedule, for retaining them. Like all the gym doesn't do that. They're essentially providing the structure and the systems. So I would say when I started there, it was really just catering to everybody's time of sure, I'll train you at 6 a.m. I'll train you at 6 p.m. when like in reality, like 7 to 3 is my ideal like training time to be with clients. But there was also the, well, when you're in the beginning stages, you take on
Yeah.
who you can and you kind of got to say yes. So
Yep.
that would be one of the things that like in the beginning I didn't realize was I don't want to use the word dumb, but was a boundary that I was not strong in. And then the other was honestly this whole like, I think I got it from Jamie of like, get up at 4 a.m. That lasted like a solid year. And then once I learned what 5 a.m. was, I'm like, fuck this 4 a.m. shit. Like, I'm okay to come up when the sun comes up, which is like 5:36. Like I haven't seen 4 a.m. unless I've not gone to bed the night before. I tried it recently and I'm like, uh-uh. I don't care. I will go to bed at 8 o'clock. I have no issues. But 4 a.m., th- I have no reason to be up at that time. There is no work that has to be done. So that was the other, was like doing that for a while because the people around me were doing it. So it was like, oh, we're all doing it type of thing. But then once I was like, I don't need to. There's a way to get the what I need by switching your priorities each day and knowing that the task list is forever gonna be never ending. It was
Mhm.
like I'm more productive in the morning and I'm more productive with more sleep. So I'll sleep from 8 to 5 or 9 to 5 instead of getting up at 4. Because that first hour was me sitting there drinking coffee, watching Netflix, anyways, because my brain wasn't
Yeah.
functioning. I can
Yeah.
guarantee.
I know. And, I'm not going to pick on Jamie and I'm not going to pick on anybody else. Like, if your routine, and I think this is an interesting thing about everybody, like, I think we all have a different ideal time to wake up.
Yeah.
That's fine. Like, ideally, I wake up somewhere between 5:15 and 6:15. Like, that's my ideal time. I feel like crap if I wake up at 7. I feel like crap if I wake up at 4. It doesn't matter if I go to bed at 8 or not, which I
Mm-hmm.
love going to bed at 8. I can't believe I'm saying that.
Mm-hmm.
But
My
um
vape.
but what annoys me, and Jamie, I know you took the question a different way, and you're not wrong about, like, you have to hustle in business, but this outside noise in our society about hustle culture, right? The negative side of it is in a lot of people's heads. And then you wake up in the morning, maybe you wake up, Morgan, at 5 a.m., and all of a sudden you see, like, social media influencer, so on. Oh, I wake up at 3:57 and I start on the treadmill at 4:01 and I have my latte gone by. That has nothing to do with your life. Like, and you don't have to subscribe to that to be successful. If waking up at 10 o'clock in the morning works for you, good for you. Like, that's fine. Exactly. And and so I guess what I'm hoping to get across today, and I asked that question kind of, and I love how each of you took it a different way. And I almost asked that question being funny because that's like my default. So for me, the dumbest thing that I think I've ever done is probably, I probably could have picked what Amber said, was like choosing not to sleep. Like, that's pretty freaking dumb. But I had a situation one night where I was trying to diagnose a problem on a generator in the woods. And I'm like, well, I'll just stay up all night and sit on a 5-gallon pail in the pump house in the middle of the woods when it's 40 degrees out. And I got my abominable snowman suit on and, like, I'll be good. And I slept there on a 5-gallon pail for probably 3 to 4 hours, trying to, and I ended up falling asleep. I didn't purposely fall asleep. My intent was to stay awake. You know what ended up happening though? So the issue was that the generator was randomly shutting off and we couldn't figure out why. I was like, well, I'll just sit here. When it shuts off, I'll be able to figure it out. Freaking thing never shut off. It ran all night long. It was perfect. So what did I accomplish? Like, I could have just went back out the next morning at 10 o'clock and started frigging with it when part stores are open, or, like, where am I going to buy parts at 4 a.m.? Like, that's ridiculous. So, yeah, like, sometimes I do dumb things, and I think we all do as entrepreneurs. And Jamie, I like your perspective. Like, maybe it's not dumb in the moment. Let me take that back. I'm kind of analyzing what you said. It may seem dumb in the moment, but if you have a chance to step back and look at it, or if you have the foresight to understand, like, I just need to learn from these decisions and get better each time, that's huge. That is really, really big. Go ahead, Morgan.
And I think the 4 a.m., I did it because I wasn't sure of the route, and Jamie was more experienced on that train when I stepped into business. So I followed the person that was more experienced than me. And I think we all do that. And I think we all get in the hustle and we choose someone else's, even if it doesn't fit for us, just because we don't know what we just don't know any other way. And then along the lines, you learn like, I don't have to be doing that. But when there's so many options, finding that person who is that next step above you and being like, she's being successful. I'm going to do the same thing because it works. Like that right there, I think is where we all kind of get into that is Scott, you learned that from somebody. I'm just going to stay up all night and I'm going to fix the problem. Amber, you probably learned that from somebody. Like all of these are things that we've learned from somebody else. So noticing that it's not bad that we did it, but like it was just we didn't know any other way.
I think so. Going back to my own business at Maplewood Suites, about year two, right? We're struggling. I meet this. It was actually at the end of our first season, and I meet this other producer who's also a dealer of equipment in the maple world, and I just started visiting with him. And so like we've known each other for a long time, but we've never actually known each other, right? And he's probably in his 60s. He's been doing it a long time, and he's just like giving me, he's telling me what he does. Like, this is what works for me. To Morgan's point, what did I do? I came back to the owners of Maplewood Suites and I said, this guy does it this way. So this is what we're going to do from now on. We're going to just carbon copy the success path, right? Doesn't work. You can maybe take the outline, but you can't carbon copy it. That's my experience. Does anybody have any different thoughts on that?
I think I have a lot on this. Modeling success is where this comes from. And I think I learned it at a Tony Robbins event.
Nice.
Yeah. And I do think like you have to model success when you start.
Yeah.
None of us knew how to launch a podcast. We modeled what someone showed us to do to launch a podcast. And then we fixed the outline to suit our needs. I do something different than all four of you. You four do something like more. Amber knows because she works with us on our podcast. We all have different systems. So yeah, it's really interesting. I think modeling success is a fantastic way to take a leap into something that's completely unfamiliar. And you learn. I think learning is so valuable. I got up at 4 a.m. because I was crushing at that time in life. Like I was in a completely different business and I was running the 10 miles a day. I was a marathon runner at the time and I really had the energy. I woke up at 4. I just did. And it worked for me. Everybody that was my client was mostly on the East Coast. So it made sense. Like there's a lot of reasons people do the things they do. But yeah, it's like that. Figure out what works for you and listen to the nudge that Amber talks about all the time. And your nudge will lead you to your right version of whatever that may be. But I don't think it's a bad thing to model success. Like if you see someone that you are like, I want that. What did they do? That's a great way to start. And it's a great way to build your confidence as you're starting.
Yep. I think from my own experience, like if I hadn't met this guy, I probably wouldn't have a business to talk about at this point. But you have to have, I think, the understanding that just because they do it this way, that may not be what actually makes it successful. If that makes sense. You still have to tailor it to your strengths, right? So Morgan, you've already touched on this a little bit, but you know, we've all, if you're an entrepreneur listening, like everybody knows how to grind out work. You could be a 9-to-5er and know how to grind out work, right? And it can be exhausting and all that stuff. And I guess, you know, for the purpose of just mixing it up, I'll start this discussion And the question is, I want you guys to think about, what was your breaking point to get out of the grind, right? That moment you realize that the hustle and the grind was maybe costing you more than what you were actually making. And so you were able to kind of shift gears a little bit and tweak some things. And I guess I'll kick this one off, and I'm gonna go with, I think for me, again, not everybody. Um, I think it actually started with Agrarian. So, which is my 9 to 5 job. Um, and I think it was realizing, that it didn't matter if I made more calls than everybody else. It didn't matter if I scheduled more meetings than everybody else. That wasn't what was going to move the needle, right? It wasn't casting this broad net and trying to get everybody. It was find my niche, find my ideal client, master that pitch, go find the ideal client, literally, and then start from there and let it grow organically. And so I think that lesson that I learned with Agrarian, that just because I outwork and out hustle and outdo the thing, doesn't necessarily translate to success. But it took me like 2.5, almost 3 years to figure that out for Maplewood Suites. Because my mindset was like, I have a proven track record with the 2 W-2 jobs that I've had since 2013 of sales. So it's like, well, who better to sell maple syrup than me? I mean, like, I'm literally teaching people how to sell at this point. But I couldn't sell maple syrup. I mean, and why couldn't I? I don't know. Maybe it was just an application thing. But when I got to the point with Maplewood Suites where I was pulling money out of my retirement to pay bills, that was my breaking point. So it started with the lessons that I learned, and then the oh shit moment was like, hold on a minute. Like, yeah, this is here and it's accessible right now, but what about 25 years from now? Right. And so that was the moment that I realized that it didn't matter how hard I worked. Like, I need to start surrounding myself with better people, and not just better people, but the right people, and delegating the right things to them. And for me as a business owner, and I think everybody's guilty of this, ironically enough, Jamie, Amber, and I and Morgan just had a similar conversation about this a few days ago. And the advice to Amber that we gave Amber was, when you get to a point where you can start delegating some of these things, do it. And I think, Jamie, we told you the same thing with bookkeeping, right? But try to remember that if you're going to hire somebody, delegating the things that you hate doing might not be the best choice, unless you have already figured out that that person will succeed in that role. Right. And my experience with this was, I hired my brother-in-law to be an operations manager, because that's where I struggled with some stuff. Establishing, this will surprise all 3 of you here, but establishing policies and procedures. That's what I wanted him to do. I wanted him to have, kind of checklists and all the pump houses for maintenance schedules and all that stuff. No surprise that I haven't gotten that done in 4 years, huh? And then I discovered that he really wanted to learn how to sell the product. Not because he loves maple syrup more than anybody in the world, but because he bought into the mission and the vision behind the brand. So I poured my sales ability into him, and now he's freaking crushing it. Like, probably by the next time we do this episode, I can tell you how many stores we're officially into. I'm not going to jinx myself today, but it is stupid how good he's gotten at this. So I'm going to pass it around.
I
I'll
have
go
a
to
question
Morgan.
before you do.
Sure,
Because
sure.
I think what you talked about was so important and really applicable to a variety of different perspectives. You figured out how to do this in your 9 to 5, like work smarter, not harder. And then that was a moment for you, right? And then you figured
Yeah.
out how to do it completely differently in business. Was there any through line between those two, like aha moments of work harder, not smarter? What was the thing that led you to make that change? Because it happened twice in different contexts.
Realizing that I can't do it by myself. And that was on both sides.
Can you
I mean, I have some
elaborate on
amazing,
the W-2 version of that?
I have some amazing people that I work with at my W-2 job. Amazing people. But I've always been the type that like I can figure this out. I can do it. Like I know the thing. Like just give me something I can read and then I'll go take care of it myself. Um and actually one of the training calls I did for the company for our distributor, I talked about utilizing your resources. And I talked about how in my time with that previous company, I made a killing out of simply just using my resources. And it, like, I literally just had the thought one morning, I have some amazing resources here and individuals, and I'm not using them. So I better start. Once I started using my resources, all of a sudden I became an amazing resource for my clients. Yeah. Um, Jamie, I'm going to ask Morgan, I'm going to ask you to go next. Jamie, I want you to ask a couple follow-up questions. My kids are asking for me right now. I need to quick run and check that out and see what's going on.
Can you
So
rephrase the question really quick?
yes, I can. So Morgan, right? We all know the grind, but what was the moment when you realized that the hustle was costing you more than you were actually making?
I honestly, I think it was like to the point where I was really looking forward to getting away from work. And it wasn't because I was like needing, because I love what I do and I could do it all the time, but it was like I realized how much I enjoyed not opening my laptop. I enjoyed how much I enjoyed putting my work phone away at 5 o'clock. There was just, once I started to notice that I needed to set better boundaries, it was like, oh, okay, there is a balance here rather than it having to consume my entire life, which I didn't feel like it did. But looking back, if I think about the hours that it did, it absolutely did. So it was more of like, I think it was when I noticed, like, okay, I'm really looking forward to not doing the thing. Or like when I was working for someone else, I actually like slept through my alarm and didn't show up for a client. To the point where like the club called Mike because that is not like me. So there was a point where there was a change needing to be happen there. And also I think I was needing a break. And my body and brain and all that was telling me that I needed a break, even though I didn't want a break. But once I found that break balance, I was like, hey, this is fun. It can do all the things. I can be done at 2 o'clock on a Thursday and be okay with it instead of having to work till 5.
Okay, I'll do the first follow-up question. So I think the first thing that came to mind, because I'm thinking about our audience here, and some people, if they're just starting something, do you think in hindsight, you should have set boundaries in the beginning? Or do you think it was necessary for you to go through that to figure out your flow to now? And if you had set boundaries back then, would you be as successful as you are now?
Yes, I did have boundaries back then. They just were not as strong as they are now, or as clear, I should say. Um, and I think because in reality, what I do is not life or death to anybody. Like, really, in anything that any of us do, there's no life or death matter. So if I don't respond to somebody in 10 seconds, is that really going to make a change? Can I wait 10 minutes, an hour? We all have different response times here and we're all successful. So in reality, was the urgency that I put behind things necessary? Absolutely not. Do I think there's a level of urgency because it kind of keeps us in motion? Yes, but I had boundaries. They weren't very defined or clear. It was like, when a task is complete, well, what's complete defined? What does it look like?
Mhm.
I didn't go that deep. It was more of the here's a boundary. I'm going to turn my away messages off on Facebook. And it looked different in different places. Um, so yeah, I think boundaries 100% necessary. I think having them be a little bit more crystal clear earlier on actually would have made me more productive because I would have been able to dial in my priorities faster and been able to stop working on 8,000 different things, which ideally then moves you forward because you're not multitasking because we all freaking suck at multitasking as much as we think we are good at it. That I think I would have actually accelerated faster because my energy would have been towards one direct thing instead of all over the place.
So if you're talking to a brand new person right now that's like new, like I'm brand new, I got this side hustle, I got a full-time job, I got kids, what advice would you give them hearing your hindsight? Like, because then they're going to be like, okay, but how? Like, all right, how do I do it? What would you say?
I would say there needs to be time for you need to have start times and end times for jobs, not just your 9 to 5. So if you do your 9 to 5 and then your 5 to 9 is your side hustle, you need to have clear boundaries of, okay, when I say 9 o'clock, I'm turning it off because it is so easy to keep trickling into 10, 11, 12. And then it goes into the sleep thing we talked about at the beginning. And then you lose time with your family, and then your 9 to 5 suffers. And so uh, all of it goes into one. And being in the health and wellness space, having a clear boundary with yourself of, I am going to stop at this time for the night, no matter what, because if not, it runs into everything. And
So you'd start with the end time first.
start with your end time. Yeah.
I think that's huge. And last year at the Dairy Cattle Reproduction Conference in Dallas, Texas, guy named Greg, owner of a dairy farm, large dairy farm in the Midwest. I think it's Ponderosa High Plains Dairy, gave a great talk on exactly what you just said, Morgan. And it was an extremely timely discussion for me as an entrepreneur because he talked about how, he would just keep grinding it out, keep going, keep working, keep responding to emails, do it, and then, go to bed at midnight, get back up at 5 a.m. to be back to the farm, and then start leading this team of people. And what was happening? Jamie, you've talked about this so many times. It's like at one point, I almost used to get sick of hearing it. But how you show up to your audience like sets the tone for the conversation. So what was happening to Greg? He was showing up tired and cranky. How were his employees reacting? Cranky, miserable, and not productive. Eventually he just said, you know what? 9 o'clock, I'm going to bed. End of discussion. Shows up the next day, rested, refreshed, and in a jovial mood. When you're leading people, and even if you're a solo entrepreneur, like it's just, it can be intro. It's Amber, you experience this. If you wake up in the morning and you're just miserable because you stayed up working till 2 a.m., but you still had to get up at 7 a.m., you just kind of don't really feel like it, right? And so I guess I'd like to transition the question to you. Like, have you had that moment? And like, what was that moment? What did it feel like?
Well, I'll go back to me being sick. The moment I saw myself being sick, like several months in a row, when that was something that never happened to me before, I was like, okay, I have to do something. I have to change these habits. And like Morgan said, I had to start putting boundaries on myself, because the thing is that because I was not having boundaries on anything, people were also taking advantage of that. So they knew that if anything happened, Amber could be there to solve it. And that's something that happens. And I'm not just referring for work and the things that I was doing, also for family. So, and friends, because I've been the one who is always there trying to show up for everyone and trying to help and trying to do something. And that's kind of like my love language. I love helping people. Service to me is my love language. So when anyone needs anything and I can be in their house doing something and then I'll be back and then I have to work and then I'll be late and then some things won't get done on time and then I would stay up until way later and then I wouldn't sleep and that's the thing. I was so cranky and I was miserable in that sense. I am not a cranky person. I really feel like I'm very happy, well, not happy, but joyful at least most of the time. I have a good mood, not always, but that's like more frequently than not. So being this like person, I was like, oh my God, I don't want to do this, and I don't want to do this. I was like, I am not this person. I enjoy doing this. So when you feel like what you enjoy doing is not joyful anymore, that's kind of sad. And that happened. That was
Ah,
that happened to me. And but the biggest thing was me being sick. I hate being sick. And when this thing lasted for so long and I have to have, take pills and treatments and stuff like that are expensive and they're awful and then you feel bad because in my case, my stomach hurts each time I have to do some kind of treatment, and then I was even more miserable. So yeah, I think the health situation was like my wake up call, and they were like, "You have to change this." I was doing, and I usually do 160 hours, right? Like a month or a week, or how is that? A month, right? I was doing like 230 or 40. That's not normal. So I was like, I have to change this because I'm the one responsible for my own health and for my own well-being. So yeah, that was my breaking point. Very painful one.
so let me ask you this. If Jamie or I or Morgan or any other person that you deemed a credible source would have came to you before you got into that cycle, right? Of sleep deprivation leading to poor health and said, Amber, trust me, like we've been there, we've done that. You gotta set these boundaries. You gotta take care of yourself before you take care of others. Do you think that would have made a difference, or do you think you would have still had to learn that lesson on your own?
No, I'm someone who actually loves to learn from other people. I'm not the one who needs to experience things on my own skin. I learned that when I was very young, and I was like, okay, this hurts, or this is bad, or this someone has it. My sister went through this. I don't want to go to this. So when people actually tell me like, hey, maybe you should consider, maybe you should, if you don't believe me, learn about this. So I'm actually one who likes to take maybe that's also why I give advices to people, because I've been trying to learn things on myself so they don't have to go through that painful experience. And I'm like, I don't want you to go through this. I already went through this. I already learned that this is not something that you want to go through. So hopefully you will listen. Hopefully you will learn on your own if you have to learn and listen to someone else say the same. But I think that if someone have told me before that, hey, you can calm down, you can take time. It's not like life and death threat situation thing. So just calm down. Maybe yes, I would have listened, and I wouldn't be in. I would have been in that horrible situation. Yeah. But that's a mindset thing, I believe, because not everyone believes the same. I know that not everyone thinks the same way I do. Not everyone has the same experiences. So some people do need to live the whole thing on their own skin
Yeah.
to actually say, yes, this is not for me. I'm not that kind of person. So for me, it works when people tell me like, hey, maybe consider this other route, maybe, learn about this or look at this other side, this other perspective. So I think, yeah, it's a mindset thing.
I think you're right, and I think that's a part of me that I wish was a little bit different. I think it probably could have saved me a whole lot of heartaches throughout the years,
Mm.
mind aches, body aches, back aches, whatever else. Because the moment I feel like somebody's trying to like put a box around me, I mean, I'm like a crazed badger. I just need to, screw you. I'm gonna do it myself. Um, yeah. Any other thoughts from Jamie or Morgan before we move on?
What I heard from Amber was self-awareness. I feel like you have a
Yeah.
very good level of self-awareness to know what works for you and what doesn't. And when your body is literally like, red light, no, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that's such an important skill that not everyone naturally has, especially for you to say, good advice is something you'll take. I'm like, Scott, you tell me what to do, I'm going to do the opposite. You tell me left, I'm going right. Just to prove you wrong. So I think that's really interesting. Did you always have that? Or was that something you cultivated in yourself?
I think I cultivated it because, like I said, I have a very big family, and many situations have happened in my family over the years. And each time all of these situations arise, I was like, I don't want to go through this. So what can I do to avoid this? So I will kind of like, okay, pay attention to like these are kind of like triggers for these type of situations to happen. So I'm very aware of like I don't want to do that in relationships, in work, in personal with myself, my health and all of that. So yeah, with health, for example, I have a lot of family members that were very sick and because of neglect, self-neglect, they were really not taking care of themselves. I'm like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to prove them wrong or anything. I don't need to do that. I just need to know that I'm not going to follow the same path as them because I know the end road of this. So that's kind of like how I see it. And I've been doing that for a long time now and cultivating it and testing it somehow as well. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, a lot of experiences and just following my instincts.
Okay, like Morgan, if someone doesn't feel like they have the skill of natural self-awareness, what advice would you give somebody who's like, I really want to be able to trust myself more? What advice would you give?
Well, in that case, as with everything, when you're trying to do something that you're not used to do, that you're not comfortable because you haven't done it before, that you feel like scared, you really have to say, okay, what is the best thing that could happen if I do this, and what is the worst thing that can happen if I don't do this? Like, try to find your pros and cons with this situation and then see, okay, I think that, let's say that both things are on the same level, but I believe, and this also kind of like an instinct type of thing, like the nudge that I've been talking about all the time. This nudge will tell you like, hey, I think that you should go this route and see this part first. And then when we actually do things, when we are scared and we feel like, maybe I'm not sure, but I'm just going to try it, you start trusting yourself more because you won't grow until you actually do the things and test the things. So that's what I do, and that's what I hope other people could learn and could see that it can be helpful for them. So do it scared. Try it out.
Well, I think trusting yourself more is actually like the perfect way to segue into the next question because self-doubt, right? What does everybody post on social media, Morgan? They always post the good stuff, right?
It's the good stuff. It's the clean
Yeah.
house.
Yes, it's the clean house. It's the, the big wins, the all the stuff, right? But nobody ever shows us what's under the carpet or what's hiding in the closet. It's like, kind of going back to our last show, right? How to stay authentic in an AI world. It's There's just a lot of fake crap out there, right? And I think sometimes, like, if you're a young entrepreneur, I don't care where you're at in life, you don't even have to be an entrepreneur. Just keep in mind that the social media pages that you're likely following, like, they want you to see the best version of themselves. And they're probably not willing to show you the real shit, which is why we're doing this, right? So that being said, this idea that everybody on social media is only showing you the good stuff, I want to dig in the closets of you three ladies. Now, hypothetically, not literally. um, that was I tried to work that joke in. It might have been okay. Um, but what is one struggle that you have just carried in silence that somebody would never guess based on what they've seen of you? And I'm going to go to Morgan.
I think when it pertains to social media, the two things that I've started doing more recently, that I don't talk, it's not that I guess I don't talk about is following people who have different body types than you, because especially in the fitness world, we are all made differently. And Jamie and I are completely different heights. So if I'm over here looking at her page and seeing all this happening, she's completely proportioned differently. So our bodies are going to change even if we eat the same way, even if we exercise the same way. So that's been a really big thing, is following people who actually have body types like mine and who share the realness behind it. So for some of it, it's people who actually like walk around like work out in their sports bra and spandex in the body they have, in a body that looks like mine. Is that something I'm comfortable with? No. But that is me personally. I'm finally to the point where I like sharing my stuff in my personal profile. There's a lot of social stuff that has evolved over time. So I think that has been the biggest thing, is finding people to follow that actually relate to me in the real life sense. There's somebody else too, and I love it. It's like, I forget what her name is, but it's something in real life. And she literally posts what her house looks like. And it just looks like an ordinary house. And it's awesome. And it's like, this is what a normal meal looks like. I'm like, hey, I have that bowl. Like, that is, and eating boring foods and finding people who are willing to share the boringness of what life really is. Because it's, a lot of us are not in this big glorified beautiful home where everything is picture perfect all the time. And honestly, if you're a parent, you know it's never is. It is for the time that like humans are there that
20
are
minutes.
not living there. Yeah. It's like, oh, we're having guests over. Everybody throw everything in cabinets. Okay, everybody's gone. Get your shit out again.
Yeah, pretty much. So to go a little further, aside from that piece of advice, which I appreciate you did that, because it's like, this is the value of having the different perspectives, right? You're able to take part of that question and apply it um, really quite literally. But what's that deep down thing that you've carried with you that you haven't shared really, as it pertains to, right, the struggles that you've had as an entrepreneur?
Um, I I guess it's probably, I just don't share my entrepreneurship journey on social media. I don't.
Okay, so not on social media, but like for our audience today, like what's one struggle you've had, if you're comfortable sharing, that you would like to, I guess, throw out there for people to learn from?
um Well, in the beginning, it was just the struggle of sharing myself, of just putting myself on camera and sharing it, where opinions can be given by people I don't care about,
Ah,
but
that's
they're
a good one.
opinions. So like no matter what
Yes.
it was just the fact of like, okay, this is going out there. Hence the reason I never posted anything in my personal profile. I started with a group and I started with a page because they were separate from the personal life, in my opinion, in the beginning. Now that's all one thing. The longer you're in business, the longer you learn they all merge together.
So have you, like, did you ever see any negative comments
Mm-mm.
with your stuff? Or did you even
Nope,
look for them?
I didn't see them. Um, it's all a story in my head that that I was creating.
Well, but I think that's, I think the lesson there too is like, at the end of the day, Jamie, you and I have had this conversation on a different platform. I mean, from my perspective, like once you get to the point where you're okay with yourself, you maybe don't even have to be like great with yourself. But if you're okay with yourself, it almost doesn't matter what the opinions are. Like there's a saying about opinions, right? They're like a-holes, everybody has one. And
Mhm.
yeah, it's a weird thing though to put yourself out there in front of the audience, especially virtually. Like I did it when I was 18 as an auctioneer, and it was nerve-wracking as hell. And that's in person, right? And you think all these things, like you said, you tell a story in your head, but um a week after the auction, people are already forgetting like the mistakes I made. We put it out virtually, it's there. It's not going away.
Right.
um Jamie, what's a struggle that you've carried in silence as an entrepreneur that people would never guess?
I've got several struggles. The one that I think is most like common and really truly who I am. And when I tell someone, because I have been like, oh, well, I'm this way, they're always shocked. Introvert. I am a massive, massive, massive introvert. I love being alone. I hate talking on the phone. I will screen your calls, guys. I love you all, but I won't answer the phone. I just don't. That's so millennial of me. But I truly don't like, I don't know what it is or why it's a struggle, but it's actually what fueled me to become in this entrepreneurial space. Like the go live button, the starting to go on camera, all of that was a container to teach myself to get over that fear. And it's not gone. I don't know that it ever will be. I speak on stages and I'm nervous every time. I'm the girl who strategically tries to figure out how to leave the room as fast as possible. Yeah,
Saw that in first person
it's
one
so
year.
true. And people are
Ah,
surprised by it. So if you are that person, I'm sorry. It doesn't get better. I don't know what to say. Like, yeah, I think that. And the second piece of that is leadership. And leadership is one, like, oh, that's a big one. That's a big one because I feel like it trickles into every part of life, like not only with a team, but also with like your family, your friends. The way that you conduct yourself is going to affect the person you're with. And it's sometimes hard to stay in a leadership role that would get us to the outcome we both want faster versus defensiveness or reactiveness or whatever the thing may be. Trying to cultivate enough self-awareness like Amber to be able to recognize when I'm not doing a thing or saying a thing or engaging in a way that's gonna be productive and trying to catch it before I do it. You know what I mean? So leadership is probably something I really struggle with, and I think it's an ongoing thing to learn. And one of my closets that I'm like, bleh, but trying to fix it, but it doesn't quite get clean no matter how much I try. So that's what I would say.
there's a lot to go through with that. And I want to start with the introvert piece first because so I'm probably not quite as introverted as
You are
you.
not an introvert.
Believe it or not, I
No.
really like being alone. I really like, I can bring, it's easy for me to like walk into a room full of people and just like, I've just turned on my social battery for the evening. And so I'm going to be Mr. Social, but my social battery needs days and days and days to recharge. Like it takes a while.
Hmm.
The comment that I made about I saw it in action, you and I were at a conference together, and like, hey, I get to have a beer with Jamie this week. Like, we never get to see each other. And all of a sudden I'm like, what the, and she's just like running away. She's like, I gotta go to my, and then I get a text message. Sorry, I didn't stay out last night. I had to go to bed. And it was funny, and I wasn't offended. Don't worry about that. But that's me just not quite, I don't get to that point as quickly as you. But like when I got home from that conference, like I don't want to talk to anybody. I barely want to talk to my family for like a week. I've used up my words for the next, while. And I think people that are truly extroverted, like that part just, it's just natural. It's there every day.
Yes and no. Because I
Okay.
think I'm a balance between both. And Wednesdays are a big networking day. And I'm freaking drained by the end because it's
Yeah.
just the level of so many different conversations that I
Yeah.
think honestly we just get so overstimulated, whether we're an extrovert or an introvert, that
Yep.
like I don't think it matters if we're introverts or extroverts, our level, like Jamie running out and you, but like even I would say I'm probably more of an extrovert. And like I'm drained on Wednesdays and like am ready to not talk to humans by the time I leave at 1 o'clock. Like, nope, we're done interacting till tomorrow.
Till tomorrow. That's the key. Is I've always been amazed with you,
Yeah.
Morgan, because you plan so many social events and you do so many one-on-ones with clients. And I've always been amazed at how when I talk to you, you mostly sound energized by it all. And I'm like, dang, I wish I could bottle that and drink it.
Yeah,
Oh
it's the
Yeah, I
yeah.
same for
guess.
me. It's the exact same for me, but and I'm more like I did my because I love learning about myself and I did the personality test and I am 70 something percent introvert. So my energy is always high when I'm alone. And I love having social interactions like once, maybe twice a month. And that's completely fine for me. After that, I'm so happy without seeing people again. Like so happy. I really don't need to my battery. I'm very good at doing that for myself. So
And
yeah,
I
it's
think
it's fun. It's funny to think that way.
I think Amber, that once or twice a month thing, like, yeah, we could spend time going around, right? But yeah, I'm probably wired a little more, more often than that for sure. But I'm just thinking like, okay, if I'm a young entrepreneur listening to this, and I fall, I'm trying to evaluate where I fall in that spectrum. Um, I'm gonna tell you what, like I was teasing Jamie because she wouldn't have a beer with me, but like I admire Jamie so much on what she's accomplished with Fishing for a Reason, her podcast, what I've learned from her. I admire so much Morgan, like the things that you've taught me on how to just like do a better job of sticking with deadlines and keeping up with commitments and that kind of thing. And then Amber, the things that I've just been so impressed with you is just your ability to learn, right? And I mean, it just I could tell stories about that. Um, so I think if you're listening, just know that like being being an entrepreneur, being in the hustle of trying to get things done, it really doesn't matter where you fall on the spectrum. Like it can be okay, but realize you have to take, if you're like Jamie and you're like, okay, I did the thing today. Now I need to just go, like, go do that. Don't feel like you have to stick around. Maybe you're like me and you can ramp up for 2 or 3 days at a time, but then don't over don't overdo it when you get back to, reality, right? Um Amber, I still want your take on this question. So again, this mindset, right, of what people see other people putting out on social media, it always looks like, unicorns and roses and all that stuff. Not saying that any one of us do that, which we probably do. Um, but what's one struggle you've carried in silence that people would never guess?
Well, it's funny. I like a mix of everything that we have talked about. I talked about that with Jamie, and I'm also like an introvert, and I'm very happy doing things on my own. And the thing, for example, I have a podcast and I have a blog and I write and I do all of this, and I'm trying to share more of myself and my journey with other people. But when people will say like, hey, I have my friends and I have my family, watching this, and it was kind of like because of them somehow that I was afraid of doing this, because when you start sharing your journey, I mean, people will know what you're talking about, or maybe not all of it, but they will kind of know what you're talking about. I talk about past relationship. I talk about my depression journey, and when that relationship ended, and that person is going to watch that and is going to see that, and they're going to know. And at the beginning, I was like so hesitant of sharing anything because I don't want to make anyone upset. I don't want to, you know, have, like Morgan says, any comment that will make me feel bad, or I don't want to say anything that will make other people feel bad about themselves, because that's the one thing that we usually don't share things. We don't want to share the ugly side, the bad side, because we don't know how other people is going to take that. And some people are so used to take things personally that it's hard to share something from your heart, and like, no, everyone's going to believe or see things the way I see them, and that's not going to happen. So this fear of rejection, of being embarrassed somehow, or embarrassed other people, it's like the first thing that I was like running around in my head, and I was like, should I do this? Should I say this? Should I start telling this story? Should I, all of the should I? So that's the main thing. People would say like, hey, I've been writing for 2 years about my journey, and I'm kind of like revisiting all the things that I'm sharing, and I'm like, wow, I was actually very being like grace with myself, and I feel very proud, because actually I was trying like, okay, I need to do this because other people need to know that we all go through these situations. We are not alone in our struggles. So yes, fear of being rejected is the main thing, and fear of being criticized. So that was the main two things that I have to fight against. And when I started to level up personally, and I was like, okay, I was telling self-awareness, and I am not doing things with the intention of damaging anyone. I want to help people. So when I changed my mindset to like, I want to help, and people kind of might feel, related to this, that's when I was like, okay, I'm sorry if I ever hurt anyone's feelings, but this is not directed to anyone specifically. So that's one of the things that I was really struggling with before I started any of this. And I was very happy doing things, behind the camera, doing tasks, talking with people like once a week, and I will disappear until anyone needs me. But now I'm here, and now I'm doing some other stuff that I was really considering not doing, just because of what other people would say, especially my family, who I love. I love them all, everyone, but at the same time, there are things that we can, you can hide the sun with a finger. You have to think, okay, what is the things that, yeah, they were not pretty, they were really not like the best experience, but these experiences made you who you are now, and they are also giving you strength to do things or to stop doing things that you shouldn't be doing anymore. So yeah, I'm an introvert, but I'm still here, and this is my way of being accountable with my own growth. And I really hope that people know that whatever path that they feel the need to go, to chase, you should do it regardless of whatever other people say.
Okay, so one question I have for follow-up is you talked about blogging your depression battle. What was that like?
It was painful. It's painful to kind of like I have to not kind of like remember, but I have to see little Amber with a different lens. I have to see all of these emotions coming, all of these experiences, all of the decisions that I made when I was in that state that I'm really not proud of. All of the times that, other people were suffering because of me. So that's one of the things that you feel like, oh my God, I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have said that. And da da da. So it was kind of like a catharsis moment for me because I was healing and I had to deal with that myself. It was not someone else that had to come and figure things out for me. It was me doing the job that I knew I had to do. So it was painful. It was horrible. Not going to sugarcoat any of this. And after that, when, okay, I put that out there and people were starting to reading and it, in the end, it was like I set myself free because I finally let go of all of these expectations that I had myself for myself. It was actually not that much about other people. It was about me. I was not proud of that Amber, and I have to forgive myself for that first. And then when I just share it, and I was like, okay, yeah, that was it. I have to just let it go. I have to say this happened, and I'm not proud of it. I'm not happy that it happened, but it taught me so many things and it led me to where I am now. And that was the biggest lesson, that it had to happen for a reason, even if I didn't
You
understand it
can't
at
hang
that
on to
time.
guilt.
Yeah,
I think forgiving yourself is such a big thing. You can't hang on to guilt, especially self-guilt, right?
yeah.
You know,
Yeah, because no one
self-pity.
was telling me that it was wrong of you to feel like this or you shouldn't or da da da. It was me.
Yeah.
It was a battle of me against myself. So yeah, I have to write about that. I have to. And all of my blogs started because I really needed to start talking with myself and with my feelings. And that's what writing does for me. I talk a lot of internal
That's
dialogues and stuff,
extremely
but
brave to share your most vulnerable. Like,
yeah.
to publicly share that is so brave.
Yeah.
I just have to point that out because I haven't done that.
Real
Yeah.
people
And
talking about real shit. This is,
yeah.
and I think this is what I'm trying to really with this topic today is get to this, and I'll, um, Amber, it, I feel you, and that's why I asked that question about the blogging, and because, I guess as much as I hope our audience gets something out of this call today, I'll be honest, this was about me today. Like it was like it's a therapy session for me today, right? To get through this stuff. And um yeah, I mean you definitely, I didn't expect that. So that's like, thank you for that. Um yeah, and I think whether it's social media, whether it's, Jamie, your perception of me, like I'm totally extroverted because, whatever. I think probably a lot of people think that way because of podcasting or the shit show or sales or being an auctioneer, being in front of people. But then like this whole Maplewood Suites thing, like it's so, I don't know, it's so different. And it's a weird thing because like I believe in what I'm trying to accomplish. Like my wife believes in the vision that I have for the business. Um, my kids believe in it. I mean, little Cooper, I wish I could just rename maple syrup. Cooper calls it maple sup up. And I just think that's so cute. Um, and I think where I struggle with this is that, I want to I want to position Maplewood Sweets as like a trusted place to buy a healthy sweetener, right? But I don't want to, like, how do you balance sharing all the gruesome details with, like, pity isn't a marketing strategy, right? I mean, maybe it should feel like one, but it's not. And, you know, I think the silent struggle on my end is that the pity part of it. And like, let's be honest, like I could be sitting here with several $100,000 in a bank account right now. And instead I have this. I have that. I have a t-shirt that has a name on it. And it's, I don't know. The financial side of it, I think, is probably what drives my, I think, guilt, of that. But then, I'm also like, you try to keep it into perspective, like you're building this from the ground up. Like, it's short-term pain for long-term gain. But man, the short term, I think, it can be pretty intense. But then Jamie, there's times where I have to A up, right? Like, so we open up the Sugar House for Maple Weekend, and it was, oh my God, I got emotional. I was in tears this year with the thousands of people that showed up. And you're creating a family fun vibe. And then inside, I'm like, I'm giving the tours, I'm talking to the families, we're teaching children how to tap a tree and how to make maple syrup. But in the back of my mind, I'm trying to figure out how the hell I'm going to pay the advertising bill because I dropped $1,800 on trying to get everybody here. It's like, where's this $1,800 going to come from? Like, how are we going to pay the labor to pull off Maple Weekend? Like it, like, and it just like it drives, literally has driven me to the point of depression. Just, I mean, over the last few years, and if, but I think the hope, right? The hope behind the mission is that eventually that story, the why we do this, it's going to start clicking with people. It's a weird thing of carrying the guilt of maybe what my family's financial status could be, and the hope of what we're doing is going to someday triple, quadruple, 10x that, that financial status. And then, balancing how much you dive into this story. I mean, everybody sees the bottle of syrup. Nobody sees the shit, but then how much of that shit do you want them to see? Maybe this is the wrong place to talk about that. We don't have a lot of time left. So I do want to, like, if anybody wants to jump in, go ahead. But
I can't not jump in on that because that is such a true vulnerable, like everyone sees the bottle. They don't see what it took to build the bottle. And I think we all can relate to that in some capacity. And it's not what you share because it's not good marketing. It's not. Usually you're like, I heard this from somebody, like, don't share your wounds, share your scars. Because the story in hindsight, you can share with vulnerability and lessons and all that. But the open wound, it's like that pity word that you used, you might not come. It's just very interesting balancing the authenticity versus like real and what lessons would be valuable for someone to hear right now. Like, I think what you just said and what Amber just said about those things are very just good for people to know. They're not alone. Like, shit happens and it's part of the journey. And it's the only way you can get to that next level. You have to wade through the shit. And everyone has it, even if they pretend they don't.
I like what you said about the wound versus the scar. I mean, right? Growing up, we always, boys just tell each other, chicks dig scars, but chicks don't dig an open wound that's gushing blood. Sorry, guys, it's just the way it is.
And there's some people that are really good at the vulnerability in the moment thing and it works for them. I also think there is a personal side of that, like figure out what works for
Yeah.
you. Because the internet's mean. It's mean. I've gotten more
Yeah.
hate than I ever experienced in the fishing industry. Y'all are mean. And
I
it's
know, I've
like,
seen
you
some
just
of
got
those
to figure it
comments. And
out.
I'm like, people, just chill. As we wrap up today, I am really curious to hear because you've all kind of alluded to some of this stuff throughout our conversation, but what I'm looking for is like that 1 minute, like, Jamie, this is what your younger version of yourself needs to know. Like, what piece of advice, what piece of wisdom would you share with the younger version of yourself on how to protect your mind, your heart, and your sanity while building a business? Go ahead, Amber.
Yeah. Thank you. I love this question because I wrote a letter to my younger self. It's also in my blog. And the first thing that I told her was that it was okay to make mistakes and it was okay to not have things figured out like in the moment. It's okay to take some time to figure those things out. And even if those things don't work out, that's still okay because you grow as you experience things. And, as you experience things, you're learning. And while you learn, you keep growing. So it's okay to make mistakes. It's really fine. It's not going to be the end of the world. And that's what I told her. It's fine. Baby girl, it's fine. It's not going to be the end for you. It's actually going to be the stepping stones that led you to where we are right now.
Love that. Who wants to go next? You're muted, Morgan.
Thanks. Set boundaries and take care of yourself first because we've talked about it before on many different platforms of if you are sick and you can't work, you're not doing anybody anything. So that's also falls into my business. Like take care of yourself, make time for you. Because if not, you're going to feel like shit. Your performance is going to be like shit. And your business is not going to be what you want it to be, anyways.
Your life won't be what you want it to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Miss Propst?
Oh, Amber, your letter thing. I got
I
two.
know.
So I think this gave me like a couple of just like, make sure you find a good mentor because my mentor made me do this. Wrote a letter to myself and they literally mail it to you in the future at a date. And I've got two of them and the advice is a year apart each. One of them, I'll just do a quick snippet from each. So this is 2023's. You battled, you broke, you got back up again, you paused, don't quit. And then the other one, when you feel like giving up, bitch, you better not. Like it's the same advice. And we have it in us already. And those letters, those written down things sometimes remind us of how powerful we already are. So find your mentor if you need that support. And bitch, you better not. Don't give up.
So I love that. Don't give up. Yeah, it's just so I guess for me, just because you can outwork everybody, that's not going to mean it's going to equal profitability. Essentially, hustling without having a strategy is just exhaustion that leads to bad things. The growth comes when you learn how to work in your zone of genius and let others work in theirs. I would probably second Morgan and Amber's take of I think Morgan mentioned it, right? And I've said this 100 times before. If you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of others. I'm reminded of a quote by Steve Gilliland in a book that I read of his. And he likes to say, taking the first step gets you 50% of the way there. And I think that's a really big, powerful quote. But when it comes to our topic today, what about the other 50%? That requires team and it requires strategy and realism about limits. And I think the real wisdom is there are times in life where we're going to have to grind. I'm going to have to bottle syrup till 2 in the morning. I'm going to have to pull an all-nighter during production season. But I have to know how to rest and how to take care of myself. And I think, as we bring this version of the shit show to a close, I would just like to leave people with a little bit of this, right? And so for me, I keep thinking about the upcoming maple season because it's literally just around the corner. It's 12 weeks of chaos. As I just said, there's no sleep. There's a lot of sacrifice just to make something simple and sweet that I hope everybody enjoys. But that's what life feels like for a lot of entrepreneurs. It's messy, it's sticky. Don't let the world just see the highlight reel. I'm not telling you to use pity as your marketing strategy, but be authentic. It's okay to let people see the 3 a.m. tears. Maybe not in your marketing strategy, but with your friends, with your family, with your close people. It's okay to see the doubts. It's okay to let people know that you yourself wonder if it's worth it. Because reaching out, admitting you're tired, admitting you're mentally exhausted and can't even function another day, and leaning on people, it's not weakness. And that's something I've had to learn myself. It's wisdom. Sanity is not found in outworking everybody. It's found in being real enough with yourself to say, I can't do it alone. If you just take one thing from this today, from me to you, laugh. Laugh at the hustle, protect your health. And remember, the sweetest things don't come from running yourself into the ground. They come from balance, from community, and giving yourself a little bit of grace. Thank you for reminding us of that, Amber, by saying to forgive yourself once in a while. I hope everybody has gotten something out of this as much as I did. Thank you, everybody, Jamie, Morgan, and Amber, for being here today.
It's our pleasure always.
Love you guys.